delighted to have Mr. Lee Smithson. He possesses a wealth of experience and expertise in hurricane preparedness, disaster response, and community resilience efforts. He has served more than 3 decades of public service in the U.S. Army, the Mississippi National Guard, and particularly as Mississippi's National Guard Director of Military Support. During his time in the National Guard, Mr. Smithson supported operations for Hurricanes Isidore, Lily, Katrina, Gustav, Ike, and Isaac. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to hurricane response, in addition to our recovery efforts for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. He is currently Executive Director of the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. As Director of MEMA, Mr. Smithson coordinates all activities within our local communities to save lives, protect property, and reduce suffering for those citizens impacted by disasters. So we're delighted that he's here and that he'll be part of the expertise for our second panel. And I appreciate you indulging me on that because, as the chair knows, we are back and forth between 2 hearings at the present time. Now, let me just follow up, Admiral, on icebreakers. I'm learning there are icebreakers and then there are icebreakers. Now, there's sort of a notion going around that some of our allies can build a pretty good icebreaker for $200 million, and why aren't we doing that? I think you were explaining to me earlier in a private conversation that the kind of icebreaker that we've authorized in the NDAA is far more complicated than that and gives us a lot more capabilities. So if you would tell us what this almost billion-dollar icebreaker is capable of doing, and how many of those we need, and how many of these less capable vessels we need.
Thank you, Senator. So I was again in Finland, and they're one of the offerers, if you will, for icebreakers. I'm of the mind that our U.S. shipyards can build this, and we can build this with U.S. steel and with U.S. prime movers as well. So yeah, I would consider this as an investment in our military-industrial complex in our shipyards, and we have 5 U.S. shipyards that have now weighed in to compete to build the first heavy icebreaker. But they will look at other commercial designs rather than. So
that's a heavy icebreaker,
right?
What capabilities does it give us?
It gives you the ability to break ice up to 21 feet thick, and you might say, well, does that ever happen? Last year, the Polar Star broke through over 80 miles of ice, 14 feet thick. A medium icebreaker would never even make 2 or 3 miles of headway in those icing conditions. So we're still seeing heavy icing, and this was to be able to sustain our mission in Antarctica. In the U.S., if there's an area where the United States leads, it is in the mission in Antarctica. We have a significant vote, but we're seeing China in particular stepping up its presence in Antarctica with less than transparent initiatives going forward of why so much China moving to Antarctica.
Okay, now what could these less expensive Finnish icebreakers not do for us that this heavy icebreaker will be able to do?
So when we look at our icebreakers, they do more than...
They help on the Great Lakes?
No, they wouldn't fit through the Soo locks. Okay. No, they're
so we need lighter tugs on the Great Lakes.
So you're limited by the Soo locks and the width of a ship.
We've got at least 3 kinds we're talking about now.
The main one we're talking right now is the heavy icebreaker. We have
I'm talking about all 3, sir.
Okay. Let me take it from the top.
Good.
Yeah, the most critical one is our heavy icebreaker, the Polar Star. She's going to leave in a few weeks for Antarctica. If she is beset in ice, the United States has no way to recover that ship. There's nothing in our inventory that can break it loose. We would probably have to ask Russia, can you break us out of the ice, please? I don't want to be put in that position. I don't think our nation wants to find ourselves in that vulnerable situation, we have no self-rescue capability. Our other icebreakers, we have self-rescue capability, but operating in heavy ice, we have one. We are a one-trick pony, and that is it. An icebreaker does more than break ice. It gathers information. It can do law enforcement if necessary and exert sovereign presence. The icebreakers in the Baltic do one thing only, and that's to open up a shipping channel to resupply the ports in the Baltic. A medium icebreaker, less capable. It can break ice up to 8 feet thick. It supports a scientific mission. A lot of the work that Healy did this year, it was a classified program, but working for the Office of Naval Research. So these are multi-mission platforms that can operate in an ice environment.
Okay, well, let's say you and the experts in your field decide we need X number of heavy icebreakers, and we need Y number of smaller, less expensive icebreakers. We can certainly build those at our American shipyards, can we not?
We can.
Okay, but we don't have plans to do so at this point.
We do. So there's $150 million in the 2017 appropriation. We have 5 shipyards doing industry studies. We'll put a request for proposal.
Or what type of icebreaker?
A heavy icebreaker.
No, I'm asking about plans for the smaller icebreakers.
We won't look at the smaller ones. I'm talking the Great Lake icebreakers. We're over a decade out.
In the Arctic, our plans are to have one kind of icebreaker and one only. Is that what you're saying? A heavy icebreaker. And we have plans to make one.
We have a high latitude study. It was commissioned over 5 years ago that said we need 6 icebreakers, 3 heavy, 3 medium.
Okay, we could build those 3 mediums in the United States, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
But we don't have plans to do so, do we?
We do.
Okay, and what are those plans?
Well, we need to build our first heavy first. I am scraping money
But what are those plans, though, even if they're long range?
Build the first heavy icebreaker in the water by 2023. Do a block buy to buy 2 more. There's a National Academy of Sciences.
And then and only then, we would look at buying the medium icebreakers. So we really don't have plans to buy 3 smaller, less expensive icebreakers, do we?
Let's make sure we're talking heavy, medium, and then we have 3 different icebreakers.
Okay, well, let's not talk about Great Lakes right now.
Okay, so
I think I'm asking, Mr. Chairman, about whether we have any plans to build beyond the 3 heavy icebreakers that you've talked about. Do we have any plans to use our American shipyards to build medium icebreakers?
We do.
Or is that just a notion down there?
No.
Okay, what are those specific plans? I ask again.
3 heavy and 3 medium icebreakers. And we've been in a decade-long battle to get $150 million that doesn't even build 1 icebreaker. So I can't tell you when I'm going to get the funding to build out this fleet, but we need a fleet of 6 icebreakers. I need an appropriation to do that. If I have a floor of $2 billion in my acquisition budget, I can move on with this, but I don't have the money.
Okay, well, we want to be teammates with you on this. And I think we're just, Mr. Chairman, I think we're just scratching the surface. This morning we'll get into this more in detail at the specific hearing. But I appreciate the chair and the ranking member bringing this to the attention of the public and the Coast Guard.
Well, I think this